Okay, so here's a quick look at the MyMedic IFAK Mini. So this is the sort of personal first aid kit for you. It's not too large. You can see it packs into a molle pouch that's not huge and can easily be attached to the outside of a backpack or rucksack, or it actually comes as well, which is kind of useful. It comes with a shoulder holster as well. If you tear this Velcro section off here, there's actually a shoulder holster underneath, so you can actually just wear this under your shoulder as well. I count there's roughly about 75 items in this pack, so what I've done is laid them out so you get a rough idea of what's included. Rather than take up weight with an actual first aid kit, they've just got a quick QR code for first aid information, which I think is kind of useful. And then you've got there's a pressure bandage here, which has been quite heavily compacted just to save space. That would be used in heavy bleeding, so if you had a very severe cut or potentially a larger wound. You've got a mini gauze kit here, and again they've got various gauze pads and gauze rolls for bleeding or people that have got injuries. There's a bleeding control dressing itself as well, specifically for heavy bleeding. There's also a super skin pack here, and you can see that's got I think something like 10 or 12 super skin band-aids in one pack here. There's a mini pack here for burns, so there's some cream to apply. There's 3 sachets there if you have burns that need treating. There's some nitrile gloves, which I would say is one of the most important things, because that's going to be the first thing you're going to want to put on when you're using this. Something I'm starting to see more and more in IFAK kits now, which is great, is Tourniquet. So here is a tourniquet as well for applying to severe wounds where you've got severe bleeding on the legs or the arms. There's also a very small super skin plaster here. I would assume that that's for something like a heel or an injury where it kind of hurts a lot in your feet. There's a glow stick, which is actually quite useful in an emergency to light up an area on the road to get people's attention, but also it's quite useful for being able to see if it's nighttime and you haven't got too much of a flashlight. Emergency eye wash here, not huge but more than enough to clean an eye out that's got something in it. You've got your EMT shears over here, which you would be using for cutting open clothing or potentially cutting other items like P-cord. Then there is a mini meds pack here. This is tablets, so what you've got in here is some ibuprofen if you've got swelling, aspirin for pain relief. There's also some motion sickness and diarrhea, anti-diarrhea and cold and flu tablets, so kind of the basics for the sort of things that you might encounter. And then there's also a topical pack that's got things like antiseptic wipes, it's got hand sanitizers, antibiotics, sun cream. There's hydrocortisone in there as well, so it's kind of an anti-itch if you've picked up something from brushing against vegetation or insects. And there's also some chafing cream, which is, I think, always useful. And then coming over here, there's your survival blankets, your standard Mylar survival blanket, useful for keeping people warm. But if you combine it with the P-cord that's included as well, you can actually make a mini shelter. You put the P-cord between 2 trees and run this over the top, and suddenly you've got shelter from the shade or from the rain as well, which is useful. There's a finger splint here and self-adhesive bandage. So again, if you've got a mini sprain, you can use that for that. And then in here is a load of micro tools. So if you look in here, there's some wound closure strips and some glue. So this is kind of, if you've got a relatively small wound that might need a stitch or two, you can kind of use these strips with the glue to just stitch them up. Then you've got some standard dressing tape. And then over here we've got, this is a little bit more advanced. I think you'd need to be reasonably competent and trained to use this, but this is for clearing an airway via someone's nose. So for most people I would probably keep this out the way, but for some of you will know how to use that and be trained. There's also a chest seal here for a large penetrating, or what I would call sucking wound. So again, there's some information here on how to apply it. There's actually 2, which is kind of cool. Then down over here we've got some mini tools. So included in here you've got a pair of tweezers, which are always useful for things like removing ticks. There's actually a small flashlight in there as well, so if you're doing that kind of work. And I seem to remember, I think it's also a whistle. Yeah, it's a whistle. So there's also a whistle to attract attention. And then as I finally get over here, we've got the Z-zips, or Z-zips as Americans would call them. These are for slightly larger injuries or cuts where you might need 3, 4, 5 stitches. And again, it'll do for now, but you can apply that over there. I'm going to do a sneeze. which is fair enough. It's a 5-minute video, so sorry about the sneeze. And that pretty much gets me to the end of what's included in the pack. Then obviously you've got the main the pack itself. It's available in a couple of colours, but I tend to opt for either bright red, so you can find it easily, or black and green if you want something that's a bit more discreet if you're out in the countryside. And it all packs up relatively neatly into multiple little pouches on either side here, on both sides, which is also very, very useful to just keep things organised. So there you go. That is a whistle-stop tour through everything that's inside the Myfak IFAK Mini, which is more than enough for even reasonably well-trained EMTs to be carrying on them. I would say this is ideal for being in a backpack, carrying around with you on a day, or even just having in the trunk of your car as well. So there you go. If you like what you see on the video, please like and subscribe. It makes a massive difference to my channel. And I'm going to put a link in the description area for the lowest online price, and also a much more in-depth written blog review that I've done. So there you go. There's a very quick look at everything that's inside the Myfak IFAK Mini.